All right, welcome back to another segment with the VW thing. We're getting pretty close to the end here now, I think, and there's only a couple of major fab things left to do before we can actually start the reassembly process and installing the wiring and drive shafts and gas tank, etc., etc. But let's take care of the front first. So what I've done already is I've gone ahead and extended the bumpers, although I'm not sure exactly how this is going to be, how far this is going to be. I've got some bumper mounts on here. And I've also gone ahead and made a bridge piece here that covers the radiator, but also holds the coolant reservoir and the power steering reservoir. See all that wiring in there that still needs to find a home. Fortunately, it's all plug and play, so that should go relatively quick, and need to relocate the battery that used to sit there into the trunk. So there's 4 things that need to go on here, and that's the oil cooler, intercooler, and a license plate on the far side there. The oil cooler, unfortunately, it doesn't mount into the stock location that the original GTR has or was. So this is the oil cooler here. So I need to probably change these hard lines to AN, like a -10 AN hard line or flex line, and then put some bulkhead fittings on the bumper itself and just run those lines into it. That should be fine. Intercoolers, this lower tank I think should be fine. I may end up trimming it back a little bit. This top tank here, couple things, but not only do I not like this curve, just because it doesn't relate well to all the angles on the thing, but it also doesn't point to where I need it to go, and I'll show you that in a second. But this edge of the intercooler lines up very well with this edge of the grill. So you can see the charge tube here that leaves the turbo. My plan is to have this tube come around this curve nicely into the intercooler lower tank, through the intercooler, and then back through the mouth of the hood here, which will then feed the throttle body. So, oh yeah, and then also to mount, this is where I think we get to have some fun here, but to mount the intercoolers, oil cooler, and the license plate, I thought we'd pull from the bush guards, the original VW bush guards that you see around the headlights and across the hood, and come up with another style mount that would that holds all that stuff in place for us. So let's get into it. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out yet, but let's just do it and we'll see where it goes. All right, it's decision making time. So I've went ahead and mounted the bumper, made some mounts for the back of the oil cooler where I thought it would work. And then I also went ahead and finished the fenders off with the extensions for the A-arms to travel up inside at full suspension height there. So now, like I said, it's decision making time. I can't mount the intercoolers yet because I've got nowhere to mount them to. I don't want to make any brackets and tie it back to this. I actually want to make the brackets on the metal bush guards that we're going to be making. So my initial plan was to have a bar that comes out, it extends off the nose and sort of mounts to here, right? Curve that around, make some mounts, and then a vertical one that comes down and attaches to the bumper mounts. And that only leaves me with, if I mount the intercooler to those bars, I got 1, 2, 3 mounts. So I need ideally 4 mounts, I think. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think I should put a bar sort of at the bottom of the tank to go across. That'll pick up the 4th corner there. And then I was like, I still need something to hold the oil cooler and the license plate. So why not incorporate the bush guard to be part of the main hoop as well. So we can play around at different angles here because the nose leans forward and the headlight panel leans back a little bit. So this one will be more predominant. And I think as the tubing goes around the corner to the mount, it can also start to flare up and follow the lines of the fender there and sort of travel around the headlight and then make an attachment to the bumper in the corner there on both sides. And maybe we can use another piece of bar to pick up the upper oil cooler mount, and then we can attach that bar back to the vertical post here. So I don't know yet. Either way, let's just mock something up, see how it looks. If it looks ugly, we'll change it. so the two headlight hoops, the front upper bar, the front lower bar, the two front vertical bars, and a couple of connector elbows from the main bar to the headlight bar. All right, let's mock this up. All right, so I got the first bar mocked up in there. I got just enough room, 3.5 inches here to squeeze the intercooler in. And I've got this cool return. This angle here matches the same angle as the top of the fender there. And this will eventually travel around to the outer edge of the bumper there. And then I guess I got to do this one next. So that's these ones right here. My plan is kind of, you know, attach that under there and run it down and make a bracket with this hole here, or maybe undo these and make another bracket that bolts in there, or a plate, and then this tube would actually weld to that bracket, and then that would make the front leading edge of that bush guard. I wonder though if I attach that there. See what I'm thinking here? I really like that. Oh, that might make it too low. Kind of like that T-bar look. That's sort of a 60s, 70s show car level hooked bumper that goes underneath that. This isn't the right vehicle for that. So, yeah. I'll make a bracket, make a plate, cover that hole, slash cut that, go in there, and then weld that to there. All right, let's get on it. All right, so this is the kind of decision making that I struggle over sometimes. It's nothing major, but see where this bar is right here and how it's not lined up with that edge right there. All I have to do is move it that way, the width of the bar, an inch that way, right? No big deal. But then this plate won't be centered. So I think what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put a little kink in the tube here. I'm gonna bend it maybe 10 degrees or so, and then it's going to jog this way and then up. So this edge is directly in line with that edge there. That way it's not blocking the intercooler. They're both framed. They're both parallel. It just makes me feel better. I don't know what to say. All right, it's decision-making time again here. So now that the bars are in, let's sort of mock up where the intercoolers are going to sit. Now I originally intended to have, I still don't know, but I originally intended to have this edge lining up with the edge of the cowl there, but it really does make them seem wide apart, you know. But if I slide that over, there. So that's kind of as wide as it should be. I like it there because you can see the VW logo and it fills off that edge okay. I know this is perfect here. My conscience is telling me that's a perfect fit. You should use this, but I can't because I don't have any room under here to put any of those lines back up to the throttle body. So yeah, so I'll think about it. I'll contemplate it. Geez, get off my back. Anyway, so undecided as to where these are going to sit yet, but let's keep working on the headlight frames and maybe this will work out. I got to stand back and take a look at this for a bit. It's either going to be wide or narrow. Butting them together, I don't think that's right either. I'll show you that one quick. That's closer to how it was actually from the factory. There was a little bracket that held both of those together. That sort of blocks off everything. Gives a bit of the Charlie Chaplin mustache. I don't know. Then it completely blocks off the logo in there. Yeah, no, I don't dig that. That's too close. All right, TBD. Let's finish the headlights. All right. So upon closer review, I had to explore this option, right? This part here. This looks really convenient, but it can't work. And let me tell you why. There's I went up and got the tubing that would attach to the throttle body and the blow-off valve. Is that on the original car, that would have gone through there. But in this case, the blow-off valve, everything is right in the way. Plus the wheel wells have changed exponentially and there's no room to bring it underneath here back up to the intercooler. Although it would be really convenient if that worked. All I have to do is just poke a hole through there, redo all the tubing, and then run it back up into there. In fact, it might actually look kind of good with two tubes going right through there. But it's just a lot easier to modify this tank and run it into the throttle body right there. Here to there. That's it. And modify the blow-off valve. Right? That's going to work. Okay, fine. I'll explore underneath a little bit more. Damn it. All right. So check this out underneath the wheel well here. If I poke a hole right through there, run the tubing tight to the body, and then I can hoop it around there and then bring it back up into the intercooler here. So I think that could work all right. And even with this lower tube here on the intercooler, if I notch it down a little bit, I think I'll have just enough room to squeeze the two tubes through there, and obviously just bring that back into this one right here. All right, so that plan might work. And it would look kind of cool because then I get to leave this alone and just run that line back to where it kind of was from the factory. But I did have a plan just to run it from here to there. So maybe the hood opening doesn't have to be as drastic now. So I was going to flare the hood up and across. The hood still has to do that because of the engine. But maybe now, since I have a bigger gap here, I could take the air intakes, bring those lines up, bring them in front, 90 here, and then the air filters would sit right there. This one here can come up across, air filter, and then I still have a reason for the mouth in the hood. All right, plans may have just changed. That's how it works around here. All right, so let me mull over that one over a little bit more. But let's finish this tubing off for the headlight guard there in the meantime. Yeah, well, the more I look at it, the more I like it. So I took some extra tubing and I mocked it up, and I think this is actually much cleaner. I'm gonna have to modify this lower tube here a little bit because I want these two tubes to stack on top of one another so they're vertical. And that buys me more room for the license plate on this side, but also the oil cooler on the far side there. Plus, it gives me more room up top here for the cold air intake. Now with this charge tube disappearing through the fender well, I have a direct line right up through here that I can actually hook the air cleaners into. Not sure where these are going to lie yet, but even if I have them poking out through the opening in the hood right between the intercoolers, that works as well. I'm going to have a little bit of an opening here because of the engine, so I might as well stick air cleaners in it. Yeah, but that part's TBD, but I think I can go ahead and make the mounts for the intercoolers because that works here, and I can finish off the bush guard for the passenger side there. So let's get after it. All right, so this looks much better now, I think. So I did modify the lower tank and the upper tank just so I can angle these tubes and get them stacked right on top of one another there, and then I just cleaned up the tubes and polished them up. I got all the brackets in there to hold the intercoolers in place. Yeah, but I like the way that looks a lot better there. And here's one I prepared earlier. So on this side, same thing, modified the tanks, got the mounts into the intercooler, then I mounted up the oil cooler, and then I had to build the bars accordingly to hold all that stuff in place and protect it. It's not that I'm going to protect it from another car, but it will protect it from like a shopping buggy running into it or something like that, right? If you hit a wall, you got other issues. So I'm not too worried about, or if you're driving it through the bush, you'll probably have other issues anyway, right? So these bush guards are there more to hold everything in place than they are to actually drive through the bush. So let's get the license plate and the tubing mounted on this side. All right, that's way better. Looks way more Death Race 2000 all the time. Unfortunately, not the first version of Death Race 2000, the second version of Death Race 2000. But everything is now mocked up and fit in place. The oil cooler, I ended up changing the lines around and switching them out to AN fittings and getting that all rubber mounted. Everything's just mocked up in place. You can see it's just cleated in place. Eventually that'll get bolted into the bars there. I gotta finish all the welding and take it all apart anyway. But yeah, the intercoolers are mounted, the tanks have been adjusted, the tubes are stacked on top of one another. See all the dimple die brackets holding those in as well. I'll probably end up dimple dyeing the bumper once it comes off again, just to get more air into the front of the radiator. Yeah, and you can see I don't know if you can see that or not, the tubes that go up inside the inner fender and then come up into the throttle body. But now it's time for the air intakes. All right, so in case you haven't noticed, space is tight in the engine bay. In fact, you can hear that's the hood hitting off the engine. So before I start modifying the hood, I got to get the air cleaners in place. The original air cleaners looked like this, and intake tubes, and they would have fit in there, something like that, and come out the front of the car. Obviously, these aren't going to work anymore. So I think with getting some 3-inch elbows, I can get the air cleaners in this region, and then I can, with the hood coming this way, there's just enough room to get the air cleaners mounted in there. So I'm going to do that, and then I can finally start modifying the hood, because I still want the hood to close down on the sides, build some more cool angles. Don't know how that's going to go yet, but let's just get into it. All right, so while I'm waiting on the air cleaner to show up, I found a really cool 2-in-1 air cleaner. that I think is going to work perfect in here. The problem is it's been 2 weeks and it still hasn't shown up. I should probably do some tracking on that and figure out where it's gone. But what did show up is the roll cage material. So even that was like 2+ weeks just from the time I ordered it between the time that it actually arrived. Either way, now that it's here, we can do the roll cage. So I think the roll cage is going to offer 3 things for us here. First one being safety and a lot more structure, because there's not a lot of side impact or anything else other than the rocker and the tunnel in there to stop the 2 halves from twisting, right? So I think that should lock it down a lot more and make it stiffer. Number 2 is the window. So the window on the thing is fine for the stock vehicle, but now that the GTR powered thing is probably capable of 4 times the original, you know, estimated speed for the thing, this is the part I'm kind of worried about the most. You see the hinge assembly here, and it looks stout and it's strong and it's welded in there, but these 2 little Phillips bolts there are the only thing that hold the entire windshield frame to the other hinge over there. And it's just anchored through a little piece of L channel there. So I'm worried that at speed, that's just gonna start to bend or flex. So, but by adding a roll cage in here, we can actually bolt the window right to the cage, and I think that'll take any of the flex issues out of that. However, you see that little nipple there? That locks into this little rubber grommet down here. But what I'm wondering is that when it's locked, and there's no straps to hold the window down to the side of the body or anything, so I'm wondering when it's down all the way, how fast do you have to go before that window flips back up on you? I don't want to find out. Number 3, I think it also offers a really good mount for the shoulder harness. See that piece of 1 3/4 I have mocked up in there right now? That's a really good spot, I think, to actually add or mount the shoulder harness for the 3-point seat belts that we'll put back in there. And I think we have a great opportunity to make something really cool up in there, because from the header to the second bar here, see, I don't know if you can see that, it goes uphill a little bit and then back down, and then we can tie it into the shock towers. But let's pull some ideas from all the sand rails. I really like the way those cages are bent and broken, or just bent, not broken, but you know, have that angled look. The last thing I want to see is just a straight, boring cage in here with no imagination. That's lame. So let's make it fun. But first, let's get this metal unloaded. Run. All right, so I got the main hoop laid out on the cage. Sort of see that it's just mocked up in here right now, right? You got the magnets holding the lean, and I still have to build the foot pedestal mount for it. But for the most part, it's roughed in there. And I like the way this angle works, and it just fits into the nook of the convertible top frame because it picks up on the angle of the front windshield in there. So now that that's in there, let's turn our attention to the front hoop. All right, so this one's going to be a little bit more tricky with all the tighter tolerances here and all the bends we got to make in it, but I want to tuck this thing right up inside the convertible top header up here, because that way we can still flip up the visors, you know. And this angle on the windshield post is pretty much perfect, but from here we need to bring it straight down, and then I want to angle it back into that flat section of rocker there from the GTR floor pan. So anyway, let's lay this out, do some time lapse, and we'll build the front hoop. So now that all the tubing is bent, we can start mocking up. Well, I don't know if you can see those lines on the ground there, but I couldn't keep putting the tube in and out of the car, so I just drew a representation of with the dimensions I had to work with on the ground, and then used it to mock tubing up. So I got some pretty good gaps here. Not too tight, not too close. So that's the main hoop. This is the front hoop. And it's got a couple more angles that kick back to follow the A-post there. And then we've got a couple of rear stays. And then just a couple of connector pieces. So let's do some time lapse and we'll get these mounted up in the car. I still have to build all the pedestals, but we'll see what we need to build after we get it installed. All right, so as you can see, everything's just mocked up in place with straps and magnets. There's a whole bunch of magnets holding the arms in place here, the bars in place. Hopefully they won't fall, but that's pretty good. I kept it high as I could, so it's out of the way of the driver's immediate area and passenger's immediate area. You got something to hold on to, and the roof still fits just over top of it. Yeah. I dig it. I dig it because it looks like an early sandrail or like a proper beach buggy level stuff, right? So let me put up the roof for you. I just have to take these off because the roof won't come over it with these magnets in place right now. All right, so there it is with the roof up, cage in, looking very much like a sandrail roll cage in there. Even the way the back comes down, you always see that in the back of a sandrail, the way the rear bars come back down and into the rest of the frame. I angled the main hoop forward, so I think that'll work better for the shoulder belt harness. Plus it gives it a more interesting look. I like it the way it works with the convertible top angle post there. And of course the front hoop matches well with the window there, and now we can actually secure the window frame to the front hoop there. So you can see the way the front hoop also meshes into the header panel of the convertible top, and the visor still, you can flip them out of your way, so there's nothing blocking your view that wasn't already blocked, you know. I sort of contemplated where to put these. Originally I had them out here, but you know, if you were to hit a bump, your head's going to go right into it. So I brought them in as opposed to bringing another hoop arm. I could have done like a side lateral and come down here and down and over, but I didn't want that look for this one. I wanted it to look like that sandrail, right? And you see the sandrails, they've always got the front hoops, main hoops, they curve in like that. So it works there. And it gives you another good place to hold put your hand on when you're bouncing around in there. And then of course just brought the rear points into the main hoop there. I do like the way it clears the roof there, just clears it. And then of course, no problems back here. And when it all lays down, hopefully with all the fabric, it'll just scrape by this tube and lay down in there. So you can see all the magnets I've got holding this cage in place. I think the next way to approach this, unfortunately we're getting to the point where it's probably time to start painting this thing. Most of the metal work's done, and now that the cage is built, I'm gonna have to weld the cage in there, build the pedestal mounts, but not weld the cage to the pedestal mounts, so I can take the cage out, paint the interior, and then put the cage back in, and then I can weld the cage to the pedestal mounts we'll make for it in there. So I think that's pretty much mocked up for this. So I got to get some seat belts in so I can build these mounts, and I can start making all the pedestal mounts back here. But now I realize the air cleaner that I wanted to get is never coming in. It's been back ordered forever. So I'm left with a pile of pipes here and figured out what to do. I think I'm just going to end up reusing the GTR style small green air cleaners in there and maybe build a 2-into-1. But I got to do that next so I can keep modifying the hood. So I don't want to commit to anything on the hood until I have the air cleaner sorted out. So let's come up with something or a solution there and then get modifying this hood. All right, welcome to the end of the video. I've decided to keep these things at 30 minutes. And in this episode, we just talked about the roll cage and the front intercooler and the bush guard mounts there. In the next video, we'll talk about the hood and the air cleaners. It's already done. I'm just trying to break it in half so it's not like one 3-hour video, right? Anyway, so please like and subscribe. Hope you like watching these videos. And if you want to see the next one, you probably will, of course. Because if you made it this far, you're going to want to see the next one. Hit the notifications button. I'll probably just release the next one next week. I tried to situate the camera in such a way that you can't see the hood. But I'm all about continuity. I hate in TV shows where you can see like the car is done in the background and they're just talking about the project. In fact, the fact the seatbelt is done right now in the background is bothering me, but there's a teaser. Look, seatbelts. Anyway, so I hope you like watching the video. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.